Howdy, folks. It's your friend Max Mogren reporting live for you from beautiful Alpine, Wyoming. This is Wake Up Wyoming for Thursday, August 24th, 2017. We got a quick show today. Lots going on. Hurricane Harvey scheduled to make landfall in Texas late Friday, early Saturday. Should be interesting to see what happens there. Looks like the landfall is going to coincide with high tide, potentially, which could cause some serious flooding down there in Texas. So to all of our friends down on the Gulf Coast, get ready. Another big storm. It's important to note that technology exists to steer storms. It does. There was a very interesting operation called Project Storm Fury conducted by the U.S. military back in the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s that was focused on steering hurricanes. Makes you wonder why we still have hurricanes making landfall in the U.S. Obviously, it's not a good idea to play God with the weather, but it seems like there are many people doing it all over the world, damn near continuously these days. Today, as usual, we're looking at the Jackson Hole Daily. This paper services the wealthiest county per capita in North America, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Teton County, Wyoming. And this is the paper that a lot of the wealthiest people in the world read every day. Unfortunately, it's not very informative. 56 pages, about 70% advertising, 20% fluff, and 5% news. So we're going to take a good quick gander through that today. I've got some plans. I'm still planning to get up to the Federal Reserve Conference up at Jackson Lake Lodge this evening, hoping to have a couple cocktails with my friend Janet Yellen and find out what they're going to do with the economy. But for now, got to finish this, going rock climbing with a friend, then headed up to Jackson Lake Lodge. Hopefully I get to hang with Yellen and find out what the Federal Reserve is going to do next to manipulate the American economy. Billy Avalos, what's up? Doug Meyer, Brian Peterson, Daniel Reichert, all of y'all, thank you so much. Sherry Miracle, Melvin Sanchez, thank you so much for sharing. We have 83 viewers. Wow, it's a good start. There's a big summit coming up on the slaughter of wild horses. That should be interesting to see. Interestingly, it's illegal to take wild horses to a slaughterhouse in the U.S., but not in Canada and Mexico. So we'll see what happens. Wild horses, beautiful out here on the plains of the western United States. Some say they're overpopulated. Others say it's just a ploy to kill them off. We'll see. In the opinion section, we've got them covering Trump's decision to stay the course in Afghanistan. There's a really good article coming out of the anti-media today talking about how the mainstream in the U.S., everybody portrays the Afghan war like we're stuck there, like it's a quagmire, like the U.S. couldn't possibly leave because we've got more nation building to do there. Of course, it's important to note that the war in Afghanistan is all about control, power, the global opium trade. 90% of the world's opium grown in Afghanistan under Uncle Sam. We invaded Afghanistan in 2001, not to go after Osama bin Laden, but because the Taliban, who were our allies in the war against the Russians, decided they were tired of doing our dirty work and made the growing of opium in Afghanistan illegal. Okay, we invaded shortly thereafter. Now Afghanistan producing 90% of the world's opium again. Of course, now there are artificial opioids like fentanyl, extremely disturbing stuff, 50 to 100 times more potent than normal heroin. And we see so many tragic drug overdose deaths here in the U.S. and around the world due to the ongoing opioid epidemic. So the quagmire in Afghanistan, Trump seems to be towing the line. I think he got the shot across the bow on Charlottesville. His comments in Charlottesville, obviously not the most ridiculous thing he said. There was violence on both sides in Charlottesville. The whole situation appears to have been staged. The police stood down. I could go on and on about Charlottesville. But the important thing is Trump's a jackass. Trump is divisive. He's distracting. He's ridiculous. But at the same time, that's what he's supposed to be, okay? Ever since the 80s, Trump has been portrayed as a divisive figure. In the magazine, Time magazine, 1989, this man may turn you green with envy or just turn you off. Flaunting it is the game, and Trump is the name. So Trump starting to toe the line more with the globalist agenda, as expected, going back on his campaign promises to remove the U.S. from all the wars. Where are the wars? Well, Libya, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Afghanistan, the list goes on and on. You know, the American military empire bankrupting our nation while blowing people up all over the world. It's tragic. But so there we go. Trump towing the line on Afghanistan. Native tribes joined the blitz to save monument designations. That's been big news for the last several months. Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke has been on a 4-month tour, checking out 27 national monument sites all over the country. So now, you know, the outdoor recreation industry, guys like Yvon Chouinard of Patagonia have really been pushing to maintain the national monument status of these. Mineral extraction and other industries trying to make this land available for their use again. What's a quote here? Summers a Utah County Commissioner who chairs a group that advocates for multiple use of public land, said outdoor recreation companies are peddling lies and misconceptions when they say local officials want to bulldoze monument lands. Summers said residents treasure the lands that comprise Bears Ears and the Grand Staircase Escalante monuments, but don't want to close those areas to new oil drilling and mining that yield good jobs. We want to tend this area like a garden instead of a museum, he said. That's funny. Not too many people drill for oil in the midst of their gardens, right? Environmental groups have vowed to file lawsuits if Trump attempts to rescind or reduce the monument designations. Okay, we've got serious environmental issues in this world. We've got Fukushima. We've got geoengineering. We've got human-caused climate change for all sorts of reasons. We've got toxic pesticides. We've got all this shit going on. It's horrible. Unfortunately, the majority of the environmentalists in this country are all tied up in this public lands fight, fighting over scraps at the corporations and political elites table. So it's interesting. You know, it's another distraction in a sense, but at the same time, it is important to preserve these public lands. Just not as big an issue as people spraying chemicals in the sky, the electromagnetic pollution affecting us all, Wi-Fi, 5G, smartphones, all that shit. Smart meters, perhaps the most pervasive and disturbing environmental crisis of our time. So it's, you know, I'm all for saving the national monuments, but there are a lot of other environmental issues that, not surprisingly, the mainstream media doesn't cover adequately. Thomas Fulco asking, did Congress really pass a bill that allows warrantless searches of homes? Only something like 1% opposed. Thomas, that's news to me. If anybody has got confirmation on that, paste it into the comments. That would be huge news. Moving on to national and international here in the paper servicing the wealthiest county per capita in North America, Trump talks ricochet, okay? Trump on Tuesday night talking in Phoenix, very inflammatory statements. He's on the offensive. The next day he goes to Nevada and he's towing the line, okay? Shows you how these politicians will skew their messages depending on who their audience is. No real big surprise there. Coming out of Charlottesville, they wrapped their statues up in a black tarp, so whatever. Congratulations, Charlottesville, for being such a big distraction. Here we have your classic not news propaganda in the mainstream, okay? Trump towing the line in Afghanistan, but still continually under assault by the mainstream media, at least here in Jackson Hole. Hillary Clinton says Trump was a creep at the October debate. Okay, they're pimping Hillary's new book about losing the election. It's not news. Hillary Clinton says Donald Trump's pacing and hovering on stage during an October 2016 presidential debate made her so uncomfortable that her skin crawled. She says in her upcoming book that Trump shadowed her so closely that she resisted shouting out, "Back up, you creep. Get away from me." It goes on and on and on. Talks about Trump's comments made in 2005 about groping women that had just dropped the day before. So there you go. They're pimping Hillary's book, bashing on Trump. Again, I'm no Trump supporter, but, you know, it is what it is. Here's an interesting story and a question that we all should ask ourselves. Why does the Navy keep crashing ships in the Pacific Ocean? This is really interesting, okay? I'm a sailor. I've sailed a 27-foot sailboat from Oregon down to Colombia and back up to Nicaragua. So I know how ships work. And the U.S. military, these naval vessels, are obviously well-staffed. They got all sorts of crazy technology on them, designed absolutely entirely to assure that these ships never get ran into by oil tankers or any other vessel for that matter, right? They've got sonar, they've got radar, they've got whatever, a dozen people who are supposed to be monitoring conditions around the ship at all times. They've got alarms that go off if the ship starts to move. They've got alarms that go off if another ship gets too close. So how the hell are ships crashing into Navy ships in the Pacific Ocean? Riddle me that. The U.S. Navy dismissed the commander of the Asia-based 7th Fleet on Wednesday after a series of warship accidents, 4 so far this year in the Pacific, raised questions about its operations there. A 2-sentence statement from Admiral Scott Swift, commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, had relieved Vice Admiral Joseph Alcoin due to loss of confidence in his ability to command. The move follows 4 Navy accidents in the Pacific since late January. Okay, 4 ship crashes in the Pacific this year. While each of these 4 incidents is unique, they cannot be viewed in isolation, Swift said earlier. On Monday, the destroyer USS John S. McCain, who's currently suffering from brain cancer, by the way, that ship named after his grandpa, you know, the revolving door, nepotism, the so-called gold in the conductor's connection, as our dear friend Immortal Technique would put it. John McCain from a long-standing political family. But this ship named after his grandpa, the destroyer, which is a rather big boat, got a lot of technology on it, and an oil tanker collided off Singapore, injuring 5 sailors and leaving 10 others missing. 7 sailors died in June when the destroyer USS Fitzgerald collided with a container ship off the coast of Japan. The collision at daybreak in a busy shipping area tore a gaping hole in the McCain's left rear hull and flooded adjacent compartments, including crew berths and machinery and communication rooms. The cause of the collision has not yet been determined. The Navy previously said there was no evidence was intentional or that it was a result of sabotage or cyber intrusion. Okay, I'm going to call bullshit on that. It's a busy shipping lane. That means people are paying attention. You know, when you've got a crazy big container ship and a crazy big, expensive, technologically bristling warship of the U.S. Navy, they don't just accidentally collide, okay? Somebody's screwing with, you know, maybe they're shut. You know, the other thing, too, this naval ship didn't do anything to try to get out of the way, which is strange. And at the same time, I don't know, maybe these boats are being hacked. That would be my guess, because I really cannot fathom how there could be 4 collisions between U.S. naval ships and large container ships and tankers over the course of 1 year. These things just don't happen. Let's see, moving along. This is interesting. In his recent pledge to force, to stay the course in Afghanistan, to send more troops, to waste more money fighting in the graveyard of empires, which will never be conquered, but it sure is a great place to grow opium. Donald Trump also said that they're going to be tough on Pakistan because of its harboring of terrorists, right? So that came out in the news on Tuesday. Now Science Magazine coming out with an interesting study. Arsenic levels in the groundwater put 50 million at risk in Pakistan. Okay, kind of unusual. These headlines are coming out at the same time. If there's any sort of public health emergency in Pakistan, well, it's probably just the arsenic in the groundwater. Couldn't be anything the military-industrial complex is doing to the people of Afghanistan. But some 50 million people are at risk of arsenic poisoning from contaminated groundwater in Pakistan's Indus Valley, far more than previously thought, according to a new study. It goes on and on. Basically, they say it's all in the groundwater, and 60 to 70% of the population relies on groundwater. They calculated that roughly 50 million people, maybe even 60 million, were potentially affected. That's equal to at least a third of the 150 million already estimated by the World Health Organization to be drinking, cooking, and farming with arsenic-laced water worldwide. Obviously, arsenic naturally occurring and kills human cells, causing skin lesions, organ damage, heart disease, and cancer. There's no cure for arsenic poisoning. Okay, Daniel Reichert saying, be afraid, stay home, and consume. That's pretty much what the mainstream tells us to do, isn't it? You know, this is a good example of a typical page in the paper here. We got, you know, designer weddings. We've got big fancy art galleries. You can get yourself a big old cheeseburger. And luckily, they found a teen missing in the Great Smoky Mountains at last. We're on to business news. Here we go. Stocks retreat as the two-day rally ends. Okay, the Federal Reserve is here. I've got a date with Janet Yellen at 5:30. Got a big crush on her. The most powerful, unelected woman in the world. Can bring the entire economy to its knees with the stroke of her pen. What's going to happen? Are they going to raise interest rates? Are they going to stop the QE Infinity program? Is the stock market going to crash again? I don't know, but I hope to find out. Hanging out with Janet at the bar tonight. What's going on? Worries about politics were a big reason for the market's stumbles in recent weeks. Investors are concerned about whether the government can push through tax cuts and other pro-business policies that were considered slam dunks early this year. Now the market seems to have little or no expectation for much help coming from Washington, said Katie Nixon, Chief Investment Officer at Northern Trust Wealth Management. Actions speak louder than words, and when we see actual action, you'll see markets sit up and take notice, she said. But so far, it's been a rhetorical exercise. The government is nearing some crucial deadlines, including one to increase its borrowing authority in order to avoid a default on its debt, and another to prevent a government shutdown. Okay, that's coming October, November. In a speech late Thursday, President Trump said that if we have to close down our government, we're building that wall that he wants on the border between Mexico and the U.S. He also said that he thinks the U.S. government will end up probably terminating the North America Free Trade Agreement with Canada and Mexico. Okay, NAFTA, signed in the 90s, did result in a lot of American manufacturing jobs closing down. But I don't think Trump's building his wall, and I don't think he's getting us out of NAFTA. Besides Washington, markets are also looking toward Jackson Hole, where the heads of the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank are expected to speak at a symposium that begins today. Most analysts expect to hear nothing surprising from the meeting. The Fed has already begun raising interest rates and is preparing to pare back the $4.5 trillion in Treasury bonds and other investments it has amassed. Okay, what do they mean? The $4.5 trillion in Treasury bonds, that's quantitative easing, right? The Federal Reserve has gifted trillions of dollars to the corrupt federal government and the global banking cartel since the financial meltdown back in 2009. Interestingly, I got an article brought up here on the smartphone today. Hold on one sec. Thank you for your patience. Oh, in other news, well, we'll get back to that. But U.S. companies, the New York Post, the interesting headline the other day, U.S. companies spent $4 trillion since 2012 buying back their own stock. It's the shock market rally. Cash-rich U.S. companies have plunged nearly $4 trillion of their cash into buying back their stock since 2008, which is why all the stock indexes are hovering near record territory. That's one of the reasons. The other reason, QE Infinity, print baby print. After Helicopter Ben, we've had Yellen in there, $85 billion a month. Half of it going to fund deficit spending for the feds, half of it going to prop up the stock market and the banking cartel. It has massively manipulated the market, said Richard Bowen, the former city executive who blew the whistle on the bank during the subprime mortgage crisis, and noted how these share buybacks in the open market were once deemed illegal. The Securities and Exchange Commission eased the rules in the early 1980s. This market scares the crap out of me, Bowen since Bowen sensing a potential financial disaster, told the Post. Critics wonder if this is the best use of cash for a company, but the effect on stock market and CEO bonuses make this a win-win for management, not for people, not for employees, not for the customers, but for management. The bonuses are tied to better earnings when a company buys its shares back because it retires the shares. So the next quarter's earnings will improve per the formula for earnings per share basis, has a smaller denominator. In this low interest environment, with the Fed printing money and gifting it out at, not to me and you, but to corporations and the government at extremely low rates, in this low interest environment, many companies, including Apple, are borrowing money to buy back shares, not even dipping into their own coffers. We've been in a market bubble for a long time, and share buybacks are a big part of the bubble made possible by artificially low interest rates that still exist today, said financial commentator Peter Schiff. These repurchase programs are responsible for most of the net inflows into U.S. equities in the latest bull market, one study shows, and it has only grown since the Great Recession. In the 3-year period ending in 2012, 449 companies in the S&P 500 index deployed 54% of their earnings, or $2.4 trillion, buying back their own stock, according to another study. Last year, a whopping 66% of corporate earnings went to stock buybacks. Bowen said he's worried because for most Americans, the stock market is a display of public confidence. But it may all be a huge fantasy, Bowen added, a Ponzi scheme that will end in tears. Schiff says that could occur if interest rates keep rising, ensnaring corporations with finance stock repurchases with debt. They're going to have to sell their stock to repay the debt they can't afford, Schiff said. That's going to end up destroying a lot of shareholder value if corporations have to sell equity into a bear market. Howard Silverblatt, senior index analyst at S&P Dow Jones Indices, is not as fearful, saying much corporate long-term debt has been refinanced and carries low interest rates. Okay, so there we go. There's your business news for the day. We all know the markets are rigged. In other business news, Amazon.com spent $13.7 billion to buy Whole Foods. Regulators approved Amazon's acquisition of the organic grocer, a deal that could bring big changes to the supermarket industry and how people order groceries online. By buying Whole Foods, Amazon is taking a bold step into brick and mortar with more than 460 stores and potentially very lucrative data about how shoppers behave online. Okay, that goes on and on. But the important thing to note here, 460 stores, Whole Foods. Whole Foods, great store. It's kind of nice to be able to go out there and buy food that's not poisonous. Food that's actually healthy, food that's actually real and tastes good. Of course, the problem with organic food is that it's so damn expensive compared to the poisonous stuff, right? You can go to the Quickie Mart or you can go to the local grocery store, buy yourself a loaf of bleached, white, GMO, glyphosate, white bread for 99 cents. But if you want the stuff that's not going to kill you, you want the stuff that's not poisonous, you got to head over to Whole Foods and spend $5-6 on a loaf. Okay? It's the way of the world. Global depopulation agenda. Here at Wake Up News, if you scroll down, I reposted a video from 2013 called How to Survive Depopulation. 11 affordable suggestions. And I hope some of y'all will watch that if you are interested in staying healthy, staying happy in the midst of these crazy times here on planet Earth. Nora Elias chiming in with a quote, bouncing back briefly here to the Navy thing. There is no way these ships collide by accident. My daughter is on the old Celt as we speak, also worked on a destroyer that are equipped with the best radar system. Yeah, we can't stress that enough. You don't just crash into a naval destroyer with a container ship or an oil tanker by accident. Okay, these things are not accidents, especially 4 of them since the new year began. Gives us cause. Maybe it gives the U.S. a little pause about their global military interventions when somebody seems to have the capability of hacking U.S. warships. Okay? Here we go. Here's a fun story. Ex-CIA agent aiming to buy Twitter and ban Trump. Okay, here's a GoFundMe idea. Former undercover CIA agent Valerie Plame Wilson is looking to crowdfund enough money to buy a large interest of Twitter stock so President Trump can't tweet. Wilson launched a fundraiser last week, tweeting, "If Twitter executives won't shut down Trump's violence and hate, then it's up to us. Buy Twitter, ban Trump." The GoFundMe page for the fundraiser says Trump's tweets damage the country and put people in harm's way. As of Wednesday afternoon, she had raised over $14,000 of her $1 billion goal. It goes on and on. If Wilson were to hit her $1 billion goal, she'd still fall far short of gaining a controlling interest in Twitter. As of Wednesday, a majority stake would cost roughly $6 billion. But a $1 billion stake would make her Twitter's largest shareholder and give her a very strong position to exert influence on the company. Twitter declined to comment, but interesting there, ex-CIA agent aiming to buy Twitter, ban Trump. On the same topic of the Charlottesville situation, if you watch that close, if you follow all the theories surrounding that, one of the guys interviewed was an ex-CIA agent too, just happened to be on the scene. Gave some really powerful statements about the whole situation there at Charlottesville. We're on to horoscopes. Anybody want their scope read, let me know. You know, I'm no astrologer. I don't put that much stock in it, but it's in the newspaper, so I read it. I'm a Taurus. I'm having a 3-star day. Sounds about right. Focus on what you need to do and on what is happening around you. If you don't stop and take a deep breath, you could find your stress levels mounting, that's for sure. Keep your options open and avoid getting caught up in assumptions. Tonight, soak away any stress in a hot tub. Well, that probably alludes to my date this evening with Janet Yellen. She may be twice my age, but she's also at least 2 million times my net worth. So maybe Janet and I can have a good talk in the hot tub tonight. We got a lot of people looking for their scopes today. Thank you all for your patience. Daniel Reichert, we're on to Pisces. 4-star day for you, Daniel. Touch base with the loved one you really care about. This person might be more open than in the recent past. As a result, what he or she reveals could have unusual significance and have implications that you probably will want to consider. Tonight, Daniel, be more caring, if possible. It already seems like you're a pretty caring guy, so good luck with that. Brian Peterson, we're on to Aries for you, fine sir. 3-star day. You might test others' patience today. Your anger is likely to surface when dealing with what you consider annoying people. The unexpected throws off your day and affects your routine in various ways. A loved one could be testy. Tonight, Brian, lie low for a little while. So deal with that anger. You know, those annoying people, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. Capricorn for Amy Wilkes. Here we go. 5-star day for you, Amy. Look out. The stars have aligned. You are more in touch with your responsibilities than many others seem to be. You will work late to accomplish an unexpected task if necessary. You might want to reevaluate how much time you dedicate to various segments of your life. Tonight, Amy, be resourceful. Shannon Wendricks looking for Libra. Here we go. 4-star day for you, Shannon. You could be exhausted by all the attention you are getting. On the other hand, you have learned to adjust and enjoy the excitement. A loved one might be unpredictable and you'll want to distance yourself. Give this person some space and time. Tonight, others rally around who? Around you, Shannon Wendricks. Thomas Foucault looking for Cancer. And then that's my last one because we got to keep the show rolling along. 4-star day. You could be under a lot of pressure, Thomas. Even more than you realize. An authority figure will be very unpredictable, which will encourage you to race to a favorite spot for some solace and centering. Stay away from clouds. Tonight, screen your calls and lock your doors. And Athenia Hughes wants Sagittarius. Let's go. 5-star day. A child or new friend seems to have some quirks that make you smile. Understand that some of this person's spontaneity could be a liability. You might want to have a discussion with him or her in order to establish your boundaries. Tonight, reach out to a loved one, Athenia. So there we go. We're through the scopes. Thank you all so much for chiming in on that. Thank everybody for bearing with us. I noticed we lost about 25 viewers. They must not be astrology fans. But I sure love reading the scopes for all of y'all. Oh, here's funny news. Funny news. Lindsey Vonn, the professional skier, and Tiger Woods had her phones got hacked, and their intimate personal photos are out on the internet. So if you're a big fan of Lindsey Vonn and Tiger Woods, you can see them having some sexy time on the internet now. Feel bad for them. You know, Tiger Woods, we don't really get into sports too much, but it's important to note Tiger, the mainstream media loves to bash on Tiger these days. This is a very common thing the mainstream media does. They prop somebody up for years and years, make them better, whether it's Bill Cosby, Tiger Woods, Lance Armstrong, Martha Stewart, Michael Jackson, whoever it is. They build up a hero, build him up. He's the best thing in the world. She's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then they thrash him, tear him down, okay? It's called killing heroes. Works very well for discouraging and disheartening the population. Also, very distracting. Shannon Wendrick's asking, speaking of famous celebrity sex takes, will this stuff with your girlfriend Janet be live? Not the hot tub stuff, but her at the conference? I don't know. I'm going to go up there. I'm going to wear a suit, pull my hair back. I shaved, so I kind of look more respectable. I'm going to see what I can do tomorrow. I was going to go up there today, but, got distracted. Got a friend in town. Got to go do some rock climbing. Get toned up for the hot tub with Janet. Thomas Fulco chiming in, OJ, exactly. You build somebody up, make them a hero. For decades, they're the best, they're the greatest, we all love them. Bill Cosby, the quintessential black American father, role model for a whole generation of dads, and then, and frankly, we kind of see the same thing here with our dear president, Mr. Donnie Trump, right? Now, what do we got here? We got a billionaire. We got a billionaire who called out the Federal Reserve. We got a billionaire who was apparently tweeting against chemtrails and all these things. So this guy, during his campaign, gives the illusion that this guy is on the American people's side. He wants to end the wars. He wants to end the Fed. He wants to end the geoengineering programs. Wow. A lot of people, a lot of friends of mine got on board with Donald Trump. I didn't, but some smart people did. And what happens? Well, slammed, Now basically Donald Trump's the head of the KKK as far as the mainstream media is concerned. And it's the same thing, right? Think of if you were a wealthy, powerful, politically active white man in America who wants to do some good. Let's say you made a couple $billion bucks. And now, I want to give my money back, change the world for the better. Well, a great role model, Donnie Trump, shows it ain't possible. If Donnie Trump can't do it, how are you going to do it? Your net worth is 1/5 of Donald's, and you have no public persona like he did, no fame, blah, blah, blah. So tearing down Donnie Trump's just like tearing down Tiger Woods. Classic divide and conquer sexism in the mainstream today. Tiff questions Scouts honor. The Girl Scouts of America going after the Boy Scouts of America, saying, hey, stop having programs for girls because you're stealing our Girl Scouts. Inflaming a century-old and mostly cordial rivalry, the president of the Girl Scouts of the USA is accusing the Boy Scouts of seeking to covertly recruit girls into their programs while disparaging the Girl Scouts operations. Wow. I formally request that your organization stay focused on serving the 90% of American boys not currently participating in Boy Scouts and not consider expanding to recruit girls, warned Girl Scouts USA President Kathy Hopenkahanen in a letter sent this week to Boy Scouts of America President Randall Stevenson. Top leaders of the two youth organizations, both struggling to stem membership declines, conferred this month about possibilities for coordination. But Hannah, in her letter, said she She came away from the discussion believing that the Boy Scouts had already committed to an expansion of co-ed programs that would damage the Girl Scouts organization. As of March, Girl Scouts USA reported 1,566,000 youth members and 750,000 adult members, down from some 2 million youth members and about 800,000 adult members in 2014. So the Girl Scouts of America has lost 434,000 members of their 1.5 million since 2014. That's a big drop. The Boy Scouts said current youth participation is about 2.35 million, down from 2.6 million in 2013. Okay, so it's interesting here. The Girl Scouts going after the Boy Scouts, saying, "Hey, stop stealing our girls." You know, I don't know. Seems divisive based on gender. Seems like if kids want to go learn how to start campfires and march with a goose step and wear kind of quasi-military uniforms and get indoctrinated into a quasi-military lifestyle at a very young age, that's their choice. Me, I think it's probably a good thing that the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts membership is declining. Sacco and Vanzetti making the paper today. This is kind of cool, actually. The anarchists from Italy, murdered by the government in 1927, got the electric chair. They were innocent. Much respect to those guys. Shows you the long-standing corruption of this country and the hatred of immigrants. Beach on Cape Cod closed after a shark attack. Got a friend out there. Watch out, Double T. And here in the arts and entertainment section, Jackson Hole, wealthiest county per capita, we get a lot of big names coming through town. Randy Newman, the composer, musician, is coming to town, and they interviewed him. He's playing at the Center of the Arts tonight. You want a ticket, it'll only cost you $125. Probably sold out already. I know I won't be attending, but they interviewed him about politics, and this is just interesting. Your new Dark Matter album, this is a question. Your new Dark Matter album has songs about both Russian President Putin and the Kennedys. Why do you choose that subject matter? I don't know, says Randy Newman. With Putin, yeah, I know. I set out to write something because I thought it was so odd, that shirtless stuff he did, like he wanted to be a movie star. He's the richest man in the world. He's the most powerful man in the world. And the other part of that is hard to understand. Question. Yeah, it's like he also wants to be admired by his people, even though they fear him as a dictator. Answer. True. That's right. He wants to be loved also, at least by his own people. Okay, Randy Newman spreading a little misinformation there. I'm pretty sure Vladimir Putin is not the richest man in the world. I believe that'd be one of the Rothschilds. And he's probably not the most powerful man in the world either. I believe that would be my girlfriend, Janet Yellen. Or perhaps another bankster at the Bank of International Settlements, the IMF, the World Bank, places like that, the real halls of power. Nothing funny in the comics today, unfortunately. Then we're on to sports and TV listings. Lots of excitement in sports, the greatest distraction, the greatest divide and conquer of all here in the modern world. People sending more comments. Thank you. That. Tammy Bell Todd says he's been voted most powerful by Forbes magazine several times. Tammy, that's true. Forbes does do that. They also put out their list of the wealthiest people in the world, and usually they've got Bill Gates and Bill Gates of Microsoft, well-known eugenicist, pushing for the vaccination of the people in Africa, most notably, and Jeff Bezos of Amazon are usually 1 and 2. So Putin's not on that list, but also Bezos and Bill Gates are not the wealthiest people on the planet. Okay, yeah, they got a lot of money, but it turns out that having a global financial empire for hundreds of years, like the Rothschild family, where they control entire central banks, get to print a country's money supply and loan it into existence, is a much more profitable way to run businesses than starting a computer company 30 years ago, 40 years ago, or starting an online retailer, right? Yeah, these are big businesses. These guys have got a lot of money, but their fortunes are in the billions of dollars, whereas the global financial elites, who are very, very well versed at how to hide their money, have fortunes in the trillions of dollars, a factor of 1,000 bigger. Speaking of jobs and money, we got no shortage of jobs out here in Jackson Hole. If you want a job, come on out. There's plenty of them. Of course, most of the jobs don't pay very well. You're looking at somewhere between $10 and $20 an hour, and your rent's going to be probably $1,000 a month. So you might need a couple jobs. But we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of jobs, and only a few places listed to live. Okay, Jackson Hole, microcosm of a macro problem. You know, the real estate market at all-time record highs, the stock market at all-time record highs. Wages for Americans not keeping pace. Okay, the market's rigged. Conveniently, what happens when real estate prices go up? Well, rents go up and property taxes go up. And people who are already well invested in the system, people that already own a bunch of real estate, whether it's banks or corporations or people that just have a lot of money, well, you know, their net worth goes up while the people who are renting get screwed. That's your news for today. I got a few more loaded up on the phone, but I really got to get going. I'm going to shave again, get ready for my date with Janet. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We got a new Wake Up News website. It's not very good yet. It's still in the works, but it's at wakeupnews.net. You can find these videos posted there, and you can also find some of the stories that I cover today in the news links. It's wakeupnews.net. Go to the news section. I started a Patreon page today on a whim while I was attempting to donate to other people's pages. So if you want to, don't forget to tip your truth tenders. But I ain't going to ask you for money because as a bartender, we don't ask for tips. It's your boy Mog. I want to thank you all for tuning in. We've got 57 viewers as we go into the 42nd minute. Really appreciate all of you, all your comments, all your likes, all your shares, all your support here at Wake Up News. We're on the verge of hitting 500,000 likes. Okay, we've had 4,500 new likes this week. So if we keep this momentum going, we're going to hit 500,000 likes, and I'm really stoked about that. You know, like I said many times before, without all of you, without the army of people out there sharing information, people passionately researching and attempting to spread the message to other people, we wouldn't be going anywhere. You know, it's a group effort. You know, me, I'm like spokesman kind of because I'm not afraid to talk in front of the camera. I like it. I enjoy interacting with all of you. But there are a lot of people here at Wake Up News behind the scene, and we're all doing it for the same reason you're out here doing it, with your likes, with your comments, with your shares. Okay? It's important to note when you do share something, odds are you're not going to get too many likes on it because odds are not that many people are going to see it. When I posted that Survive Depopulation video last week, it had 400 shares, okay? But scrolling through all those, you know, I like to go through and like those and personally thank people for sharing, and there weren't that many likes. You know, you'd have 10 people shared it, and there'd be 1 like total on all 10 of those posts. And this is when pages with like 3,000 or 4,000 followers shared a video. They didn't even get a single like. Why is that? Maybe my video is just not that good. Maybe I got to work harder, and I will. And I encourage all of you to do the same, you know. As far as I know, we got one life. We got to make the best of it. We got to stay healthy. We got to stay aware. We got to stay optimistic. You know, what's Immortal Technique say? Pessimism is an emotion, not a philosophy. Very true. You can be aware without letting it ruin your life. The mainstream media is designed, specifically orchestrated, to psychologically manipulate us into little categories and depress the shit out of us, to make us feel totally discouraged, like change is not possible, like our voices don't matter, like the whole world is crazy. But if you really take a look around, you go out and walk around, talk to your neighbors, talk to people on the street, go to the grocery store, most people are pretty cool. Most people just want to go about their daily lives and take care of the ones they love. You know, they're not out to hurt people. They don't hate people. They might be a little too addicted to their smartphone, but that's not really their fault, considering these things are designed to be the most addicting technology in the history of humanity. So put the phone down, turn off the news, get outside, get some exercise, have some fun, and for God's sakes, take care of yourselves. This is your boy Mog. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm signing off from here in beautiful Alpine, Wyoming. If I get that sex tape with yelling, don't worry. You'll see it here first at Wake Up News. One love. Peace.